Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Good morning and welcome back for another Sunday of Faith in Our Hometown, our weekly conversation about matters of faith that kind of cross our paths in our lives as citizens here in the greater Joplin area. So we're glad you joined us again for another Sunday morning. A few months ago, we did a show on how the different community health people were coming together to try to figure out a plan as to how to help our health as a community. And that plan is now in place, and all the major players in it are trying to figure out how to move the needle on public health in a few areas, a few specific and targeted areas. So my guest this morning is going to be Aaron Lewis, who is the Community Health and Access Manager at Mercy Hospital. And Aaron, I got to say thank you for bailing me out. We had a cancellation of a guest, and so Aaron kind of kindly stepped in and decided to help me to do this for this morning. So I'm grateful. But we want to talk a little bit about that. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute, and we're going to talk about diabetes education when we come back.
The different bariatric surgical options here at Mercy Joplin includes laparoscopic room-wide gastric bypass, laparoscopic sleeve gastrectomy, and laparoscopic lap band placement. In addition, we also offer revisional laparoscopic surgeries for those patients that have had previous bariatric procedures but have had failures. The surgical procedure of choice will vary with different individuals, and so that's why our team will work with the patient on an individual basis to determine which procedure is the best fit for them. All three of the bariatric procedures that we offer here at Mercy Joplin have a long track record of proven safety and efficacy. The best procedure for the individual has to be a decision to be decided between the patient and the physician.
So thanks for joining us again for another Sunday morning. As I mentioned before the break, my guest this morning is Aaron Lewis, who is the Community Health and Access Manager at Mercy Hospital. Aaron, thanks for coming and thanks for filling in at the last minute. We really appreciate it. The last time you were on the show, we talked to the community was forming and coming together and trying to figure out what those 5 target areas were going to be. Yeah. Because you guys together, whether it's we're talking about Mercy, we're talking about Freeman, we're talking about the public health department here in Joplin. Who else was involved in that whole process?
That was actually a 51 county kind of process.
Wow.
The collaborative was called the Ozark Health Commission,
yeah,
and kind of based out of Springfield. But yeah, it went from Northwest Arkansas up to Springfield, over to Branson, then over to kind of Fort Scott. So
yeah,
covered a lot of counties.
A lot of people. And so we then come together to do one here for our little corner. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
And so what were the 5 things that we came up with that we were going to target here in this area for us to say, let's see if we can improve public health?
Right. So out of that research and that collaborative, Joplin community encompasses 8 counties. Specifically out of that report, 4 in Missouri, 3 in Kansas, and 1 in Oklahoma. So those 5,
okay, good.
Yep. So those 5 identified health needs in our community, Joplin community, which is those 8 counties, are cardiovascular disease number 1, lung disease number 2, mental health number 3, then diabetes and cancer was 5.
Okay, so
yeah,
those are the things that we as a community know that we've got a few needs in,
mm-hmm,
and that we're not necessarily getting our message out all the time in all those areas about how people can improve their health. Because I mean, let's face it, I mean, it's one of the, faith in our hometown. One of the things about faith is, we believe that people ought to be healthy and ought to have
right,
that access and ought to be able to, be able to make sure that they're living well and taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about even this Ozark Health Commission, it was 51 counties. A lot of the reports that came back weren't very much different than what Joplin's report was with those 5 categories. They may have been reclassified or renumbered
in a different
certain
order
ways,
or
but
whatever. Right.
Most of them had those kind of 5 topics. There were also dental care and some other child services that came up as a need in this area. So it's there, no doubt it's good to know what's happening in your community, what things that you can target, no matter what health system or clinic or who you're associated with, to know that like you said, the needle needs to be moved in those somehow.
Sure. So one of those that we're going to talk about this morning, okay, and you might guess that we might do some of the other 5, or the other 4 later on in the year, okay? But today we're going to talk about a little bit about diabetes education. Now this is something that obviously I've talked with on the show before. I've been diabetic now since I was 39, so 17 years I've been dealing with this. Found out through a health screening at the university when I was working over at Southeast Missouri State. I used to always go and be the guinea pig for all my students, and so they went and drew blood and did all that stuff, and took it. All of a sudden, my nurse practitioner, who I used, it was there at the university, came over. She taught in the nurse practitioner education department. So she comes over and she says, "When was the last time you had a blood test?" I said, "Well, this is the first one in a long time." "Why?" She goes, "Your blood sugar is high. We need to do more."
Yeah.
And so we found out, and they caught it very, very early because I'd had blood done, less than a year before.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, boom, I, suddenly converted from syndrome X, as they were calling it at the time. God knows what they're calling it now. But then into diabetes. So that was 17 years ago. So it's like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And I've been running. So it's a topic near and dear to me. I mean, I have to deal with it. If I don't deal with it, I'm gonna, as I say, rather than trying to just do this, I'm going to die a slow, painful death, and I'd really like to avoid that if I could. Dying doesn't bother me, but suffering does.
Let's not do that.
And that's why I don't want to go there. So
Yeah.
tell us, what can we do in this area, and what should our listeners out there, viewers, what should they be looking out for in terms of looking out for each other and looking out for themselves in terms of public health and in terms of diabetes?
Sure, I think you hit on it with your experience, that health assessment or that health fair that you're a part of. I think our community can't take those lightly. If there are health fairs in your community, if there are clinics that are offering certain services that would help you if you haven't seen a primary care doctor in a while and you'd like to get a blood test or you'd like to get a wellness exam, those are definitely the high priorities.
And I mean, I wasn't feeling bad, didn't have any real symptoms. I mean, later on we began to look back and go, oh yeah, look, but I didn't notice anything. And that's why I always just would say, if it's there, go do it.
Yeah.
If you got the chance for the screening, go get screened.
Yeah.
I mean, because you could not feel anything, and all of a sudden you realize you're having a problem, and you don't even know it.
Right, especially if you haven't been screened in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really matter what age. A lot of people think that if you're young, you're somewhat invincible, and some of these things won't target you. But
I'm
there
invincible at 56. I just want you to know.
Okay, now that I know. So it's good to have those things done. Like you said, it can creep up on anybody at any time, and just because we don't see symptoms of a disease outwardly doesn't mean there's not something going on inside, and diabetes is certainly hereditary. And so if you don't know if somebody in your family had diabetes before, it doesn't mean that you can't have it. So getting those screenings and those tests are important.
Mom, dad, brother, grandfather, this is that
my dad was
a walking little time bomb. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do we look for? What do we do? How do we? So screening is one of those things. What else do we need to look for?
I think taking advantage of some educational programs that are out there, because there are patients out there, there are community members that may be pre-diabetic, and there's education that can be taught from there. Mercy does a great job of sending out educators into the communities. Carthage, Joplin, Columbus. We have a hospital out in Columbus, and we try to do the best we can with getting the word out, providing resources to those community members that need to know the symptoms or what to do in case they have diabetes. So I know we work well with the community clinic. They have free services that community members can take advantage of, and so it's getting the word out and trying to find those opportunities to get educated on. And then once you are educated, it's really finding a doctor to get a test done, because those tests really test, I think, the last 2 to 3 months of your blood work to see really if diabetes is maybe a concern for you.
Yeah, well, and and again, when they do that 3-month test, that hemoglobin A1C, they're looking for particular numbers. And so if you're in this range and you're pre-diabetic, if you're in this range, you're just like, okay, we don't see any problem. But if you're in this range, it's just like, okay, now wait a minute, you either need to start taking care of your health or you're going to start having problems.
Yeah.
Because the way I understand it, what happens is that with more sugar in your blood, your body can't take care of itself the same way that it could because your blood is thicker and can't get to all of the places that it needs to get. And that's why, I have to have an eye exam every year, just to make sure that, that I'm not developing any, problems with my retina because of the blood flow to the eyes. I have to make sure, that I'm always looking at my extremities because, if I suddenly get a cut on my foot or something and it doesn't heal, I've got to pay attention to that. If I, notice that my habits of, going to the bathroom, and passing a lot of water, over and over and over again, I gotta watch all that stuff all the time because that means my numbers out. And of course, now that I know that I'm diabetic, I have to, I'm fortunate. Mine's really well controlled, But I know a lot of people that struggle with that.
Yeah.
And they're all over the place. And so, I only have to test, a few times a week just to make sure that nothing's going crazy. But I know other people that have to deal with it, that they have to test several times a day so that they know exactly where they are and what's happening to them in a given day.
Yeah, and that can certainly lead to other diseases and kidney disease, cardiovascular disease, which was our number one, our health priority listing or our identifiers. So just because it's your endocrine system doesn't mean it doesn't affect another system in your body. So you have to keep in mind what's going on and track it and make sure
every 6 months you gotta get my blood tests, and then because of the medicine you're on, you got to make sure your kidneys are working right, and it's a very complicated thing. But fortunately, I got a good doctor, and I stay. He keeps me. If I get, boy, do I get yelled at if I'm not, if I'm not in each one of those little, we call the golden areas.
Yeah.
And, so far, life's good, and I haven't gotten yelled at, which I always laugh because, unfortunately.
I hope they don't yell at you too much.
He does. Well, he doesn't yell at me. He did, one time when things started to go up, he was saying, "You're cheating." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." He said, "You're not exercising." I'm like, "No, I'm exercising." And he's like, So he went through a few things and he says, "Okay, all right, it's just that probably your beta cells are giving out. So we're going to give it another, thing, and then we're going to do our thing." But see, the deal is, and here's that, I'm going to tell you this about doctors. So if any of you are out there are doctors, just forgive me for saying this. But see, when something goes wrong, it's because I'm not doing something right. But whenever everything is good, it's because they're brilliant.
Of course.
Of course.
Why would you come back on a doctor and question what they have going?
Exactly. So I was laughing. It's a shame he's not in the viewing area because, God love him. But he is. He's a good doctor, and, but he's going to retire. So all you endocrinologists out there, I'll be shopping around here very soon.
Watch out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so at any rate, so we do the screening, we do some of those things, and we're going to talk a little bit more in a minute here. We're going to take a break in a second, but we've got to make sure that we're aware of what's going on with us. That's just one of those key things that we got to all do all the time, and that's tough sometimes. If we don't go to the doctor regularly or do whatever, but we've got to learn how to make sure to take advantage of all those opportunities to make sure that we're screening, that we're staying in those levels, because again, part of the problem is you don't want more damage done before you know what's happening.
Yeah.
So my guest this morning is Aaron Lewis. He's here from Mercy Hospital talking about community health. We're talking about diabetes education, and we're going to be right back after a quick break, so don't go away.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
Well, welcome back, and thanks for sticking with us again this morning for Faith in Our Hometown. My guest, my guest this morning is Aaron Lewis, who is the Community Health and Access Manager at Mercy, and we've been talking about diabetes education. So Aaron, I know that just not health screenings, but I know you guys do all kinds of other neat things, just trying to get people to be able to understand, recognize, manage, do all those things. So mention some of the ways that we help people once they've been diagnosed to make sure that they can move forward in good health.
Sure. at Mercy, our endocrinology team does a really good job of finding programs and implementing programs into the community. Again, back to that health needs assessment, we've identified those health needs. Now we've got to do an implementation plan. How are we going to solve some of these things, or at least get close to maybe moving the needle, like you said. So diabetes is one of our implementation plans, and our endocrinology team has a bridge program that services those that may be underinsured, that don't have access to some of the equipment or the necessities of health care that they would need if they are diabetic. And you can certainly call the Mercy's endocrinology team and get set up to see what some of that program is about and how you can get involved with that. I did bring a little bit of stats, a little bit of information for those that were a part of the Bridge Clinic, which are all really good stats. Normally, of course, we talked about the A1C levels. There's 30% of members of the Bridge Clinic have their A1C levels below 7%, which again, if you're 5.4 and below, that's kind of the normal range. But once you start creeping up to 7, you're diabetic and things need to happen. You need to get those numbers down. So again, those that are above 8 or 9%, those numbers are going down as well. So 40% with those are less than 8%, and then even 68% of those that were in the Bridge Clinic got their A1C levels down below 9%. So again, there's continual improvement there.
Good. So this is a program that basically this particular team put together specifically for folks who might fall through the cracks otherwise.
Right.
See, I'm lucky. I mean, I work for the church. I got good insurance. I can pick where I want to go for a doctor. I mean, I can do all that stuff because I'm one of the lucky ones. But there's a lot of people out there who aren't.
Right.
And that's why they created a program like this Bridge program to take care of some of the people who might otherwise fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. So if you're listening to this and you are one of those people that you've got some issues and some things and you don't know where else to go or who else to turn to, there's one possibility. You know, and again, there's others, but I mean, this is at least one where you might be able to receive some help and some counseling. A little bit of coaching, if you will, that you might be able to, manage your life and your health a little bit better in terms of those things. And obviously, the statistics speak to their success.
Right.
And I do know that the doctor who leads it is extremely passionate. She's a neat lady.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear her talk, I'm just kind of like, wow, she's but she really does care about public health.
She certainly does.
Because she just, and again, it's not that they created it because they knew that not everybody's somebody like me who's got good insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she recognizes the need of those that are underinsured to help get them on the right path, to help them either get insurance or gain employment, help them in a path which makes them take care of their health better through those avenues. So that's just one program for those that might need some help, especially if you're underinsured or don't have insurance.
Yeah.
Call Mercy. They can certainly set you up with some help. So
good. What else do we got?
Yeah, they do a really good job of some outpatient programs. So, and when we say outpatient, it's really the clinics, the surrounding clinics. They do a good job of working with nurse practitioners or physician assistants or other primary care doctors in the Mercy system, and they recognize that not everybody can just come to the hospital and get diabetic care. It really first starts in the primary care setting with a primary care doc.
Right, because that's where you discover it.
Yeah.
You just don't make an appointment with an endocrinologist and go in. I mean, you got to find it somewhere, and it's with those primary care docs.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yes,
and again, not just in the Mercy system, but I mean anybody. You got to be talking to your physician if you got things going on, and if you don't have a physician and you can't afford to see one, there are some possibilities for you.
Yeah.
And you mentioned community clinic. Again, a similar way where if somebody just really didn't have any other access, because what the deal is, nobody wants to deal with you just when, because you haven't been caring for it, you suddenly land up in the hospital.
Yeah.
By then, all the things that could have been done to keep you from landing in the hospital are past. This is, so how do I live to where I don't have to go into the hospital? How can I take care of this well enough to where I don't get so sick that I've got to land up,
Yeah.
with an expensive hospital stay.
Right, and so getting in contact with a community clinic that may give you access to another primary care doc or somebody that has a connection to those types of resources. And then again, those docs and those endocrinologists work well together as a team and certainly can share the patient's information about what's going on with their health, specifically concerning diabetes. So
Yeah.
take advantage of the programs that are out there, the programs that you hear about, or just go on mercy.net or call a local doc and somebody will steer you in the right direction.
Yeah. But if you got, so what kind of symptoms, things would, folks look for? Can you talk about that a little bit? I mean,
Maybe a little bit. Maybe
I
some
know you're
fatigue.
not.
I'm not.
All right,
I'm not a doc.
I'm putting Aaron on the spot here because he's really not the doctor. But because he works with the community program, that's why I wanted him to come on today. But but just like what if you've got a relative or a friend that you're concerned about, what would be some of the typical things that we would look for?
Gosh, I would say just general fatigue. Again, going to the bathroom maybe more often than what you are. Some things that are happening with your kidney system. If there are questions that maybe that something's going on and something that's not right, definitely get in to see a doctor and have a blood test. It may not come up with
weight loss.
Weight
Okay.
loss, yeah.
I mean, I should have known something was wrong. I just thought that my workout program was finally coming together, and I was just getting to that spot where sure, it's diabetes. So yeah, great. So it's like, because all of a sudden I was just like, all of a sudden things were working well, and I lost a good chunk of weight all at the same time, and I was like, I should have been suspicious. It has never happened in my life. So I should have been suspicious when that had
Did you get a
occurred.
blood test after that, or
Well,
did
that's
you
what
get
I'm
a wellness
saying.
exam?
No, well, we just thought everything was working. Everybody said, "Oh, you're looking great," and everything. But then it was like we were getting ready, and then I did that health screening.
Yeah.
It was that blood test that Bobby said. She
Yeah.
said, "This is not good." She said, "We got to get you. We got to do a full test." And so that's how they did it. you
Yeah.
know. But we didn't even know to be worried at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. We didn't know that there was a problem, and then all of a sudden, bang! There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of the clinics, in terms of the Bridge program, in terms of primary docs, what else can we do to help get the message out there about diabetic health care?
I can speak to a little bit more of the programs that maybe we have. There's an ambassador program that the endocrinology team has going on. So there's a educational program that they work with Mercy nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and to help educate them on diabetes and how to manage those diabetic patients or concerns that come up. So when those practitioners or those providers go out into the rural clinics or other Mercy clinics, they know what to look for, and they know the signs and maybe the educational piece to talk with patients about that maybe they didn't know of before. They're kind of they're that liaison's the wrong word for it, but they're that middle person that can be that bridge or that ambassador for that patient back to the endocrinology
Well, it's
team.
kind of like the general practitioners. That's not their area of specialty, but diabetes is kind of blown up in so many ways. There's just so many people who are having to deal with it that not everybody can get in to see a specialist. And so this would be one more way of
and in this area, we have to get out in the community. We can't stay at the hospital, all the time, or stay in a clinic. We've got to bring healthcare out into the community. So it's through those educational resources.
That's how you keep everybody from needing to go into the hospital.
Yeah, well,
and again, that's when you know you're moving the needle. Is we got fewer people that wind up in the hospital because of the diabetes related issues. That's how we're going to kind of, in some ways, know that we're actually making an impact on the community.
Yeah, that's exactly why they have that Bridge program. They can track it. They can see how many people are losing weight, and then test it year to year and say, yeah, this is a success. And in our community, we've been doing it for X amount of years, because the health needs assessment we have to do every 3 years. So not long. We're going to have to begin that process again, which
already
is going to be
because we're 1 year into it now.
Yeah, basically.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
after we made it through that, now we got to do it again.
Basically.
Well, it's like anything else. Healthcare is and in our community health are one of those things you continually have to be doing checkups on. You know, and if you're not doing checkups and you're not, looking at where you were, 6 months ago, where you are now, how are things going? How does everything feel? How's it all going? Well, we're going to be behind where we need to be.
Right.
So moving the needle is an important concept, and so it shouldn't surprise me, even though you guys just got finished with all that massive amount of work, that you're going to have to go back and do it again in 3 years. Because otherwise, how do we know if the same issues are the same issues?
Right.
I guess the community is no different than just a regular human being. You got to go to the doctor 3 or 4 times a year to make sure you know what you're doing. So my guest this morning has been Aaron Lewis, who is the Community Health and Access Manager at Mercy. And we've been talking a little bit about diabetes education and the basic health of the community. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute, so don't go away. So stick around, and we'll be right back to close out for another Sunday morning.
Find out how a Mercy doctor can take care of you. At Mercy, your life is our life's work. Quality, safety, and an exceptional patient experience. Mercy is grateful to be recognized as one of the top 15 health systems in the United States. At Mercy, your life is our life's work.
So this morning here on Faith in Our Hometown, we've been talking a little bit about community health, and that the health of the community is almost like the health of an individual, that we got to continually be testing it, we got to continually be taking readings so that we can make sure that we're where we need to be. So this morning we've been talking about diabetes education as one of the major things in the community that we know that we have a growing issue with. What we want to do is keep people healthy. What we want to do is keep people well. And if we don't get people to take care of their diabetes, it'll get worse before we ever get a chance to make a difference. And so we've talked a little bit about some of the programs that Mercy has, but what's most important is that everybody talk to their health provider if they're experiencing any issues with anything. Because again, we want everybody in the community to be able to prosper. And if folks are experiencing health issues, we're in trouble. So we want everybody to be happy, holy, healthy, and well. This is Faith in Our Hometown. We hope that you come back and join us again next week. Have a great Sunday, and God bless.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.